We'll just give them a few moments. So I just saw your slides there, Rafiq. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I'm just going to wait another minute or two because I know there's more than four. We've got a lot more acceptance than that. So yeah.
Hmm.
So Pia, have you been to Ireland before?
No, I haven't.
No.
No,
Oh my goodness. Well,
my brother lived there for 1 year and a half, but I haven't been there. I would
all
like,
right.
I would like to go. I've
Yeah.
been to a lot of places. I think
Yeah. You can.
I think that there is a deploy to meet I don't know if the final meeting is there or I don't know. But
You can.
I will try.
Yeah, you can't work in this space and talk about tourism and not come to see Ireland. Yeah. Um, yeah, very good. And where did your brother live?
Well, he went for a project and come back to Baslan. I'm from Baslan. I'm from San Sebastian, and he was very linked with Ireland because, well, strong links. To the
Okay. Oh, very good. Okay. So sorry, I didn't, Rafiq, but just give it one more, 2 more minutes because I
problem.
know there's a couple of key names there that I'm waiting to pop up. So yeah.
Yep.
Um, so and just Pio as well, just to make you aware, we're recording this as well. So for people who can't come along today, we kind of want to create a library of these, especially when they've all been very informative and educational. So I hope that's okay with you. I should have asked you that on email earlier, but I forgot. Um, yeah.
Okay. Will we jump in,
Um,
Caramel?
yeah, go ahead, Ed. Yeah, because I know it's not a long webinar overall. So yeah, thanks.
Trying to hit record. No.
It's recording.
Oh, fantastic.
It's shit listening to me babble away here, so I'm gonna have to do a bit of editing
That's
afterwards.
great. So welcome everybody. You've been listening to us babble away for a few minutes. So today we have PO who's going to talk about the tourism data space as part of our Data Space Alliance Ireland seminar series. Tourism is really important for Ireland. It's one of our biggest industries. But often we don't talk an awful lot about what are the digitalization opportunities around it. What's the role of data in improving the tourism experience? What's the role of data in improving the operations of our tourism sector? Also, there's a lot of small companies involved, SMEs. So there's really interesting and unique challenges in tourism, and I think we can learn a lot from Pio's experience with the tourism data space and what they're doing in Spain and on the continent. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm going to pass over to Rafiq, who's going to introduce the morning to us and give us maybe a little bit of context about the Data Space Alliance Ireland and what we're trying to achieve today. And over to you, Rafiq. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Good morning once again, everyone. So, Carmel, you want to share the slides, or I will share them. I can share. I can share if you want. Okay, let me share. Okay, can we see the slide?
Yep, looks good, Rafiq. Just go full screen.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Okay, perfect. Once again, morning, everyone. Myself, I'm Rafiq Al-Haq. I'm working as a research fellow at Insight University of Galway, under the supervision of Professor Edward Curry, who is here, and opened the DSI web session today.
and welcome once again to the DSA web session. I'll be very quick in terms of like my presentation. I'll just to quickly introduce what's the Dataspace Ireland's Dataspace Alliance is doing, and particularly our work here within Insight. And then we have a very interesting session coming up from Pio Ois Aruthi. Pio, please excuse me if I didn't pronounce your name well. So the topic is why onboarding to Dataspace matters. This is a very interesting topic. The value of data for DMOs and tourism SMEs. And then we'll have a Q&A session. And finally, we'll wrap up the session today. So to start with, initially, like first, this is a very common thing that what we do. What exactly Dataspace is? Technically speaking, Dataspace is not something very much, let's say, that new to all of us, particularly the technical people, because we know that it is a sort of like a decentralized and a distributed framework for sharing the data between different partners, particularly data producer and data consumer. Now, what is very important thing and sort of like, let's say that a new thing to all of us is that how to make that transaction between the data producer and the data consumer very much trusted and transparent, and make sure that data is transferring between these parties in a very secured way. So that's the real value of data spaces, so to speak. So as you can see on the right hand side, like if you see it, like there are different sort of in this block of picture, there are different companies, company X, Y, Z, and they want to share the data between them. But how to do it? Because companies, they don't know each other, right? They don't trust each other. So how to make it trusted? And the centerpiece of it is the data space. So it is a kind of like, governing authority. It acts as a governing authority to ensure that, like the parties and the participants are trusted, the transaction is very secure, and the transaction is also like protecting the privacy with respect to the European regulatory frameworks like GDPR, for instance. So that's basically like the core objective and the core purpose of Dataspace. And then we have at the left hand side this black image. You see the technical part of it that Pew will talk about it. Just to give you an idea that what DSSC, I will introduce DSSC later on. DSSC Dataspace Support Center is once again a European Union project that introduced a blueprint. So the purpose of this blueprint is to sort of like, guide the Dataspace initiatives to build the Dataspace in a very, let's say that, standardized manner, so that so that the data is like being the data space is a robust data space, is basically following the design principle and etc. So this blueprint is available and DSS site and open for everyone, every data space initiative. Now, look, I mean, the European Commission is basically pushing this strategy, this European data strategy since 2021, and they are basically funding many different data spaces. So until now, there are 180 data spaces in 14 different categories. So if you look for, the common European data spaces, like if you Google it, you will see that there is finance, there is basically culture, heritage, media, and the manufacturing. And then basically, let's say that the mobility, transportations, agriculture, all different diverse type of data spaces are available. And they are actually there. They are actually working. And you can see Deploy Tour is one of them. And we will learn Deploy Tour today, that what they are doing. So that's basically, let's say that about what the Commission is doing. And this is a kind of like a rollout that how the data space is basically rolling out starting from 2023. You can see that the genome data space has started very earlier. Then there was UCAME, which is health data space. Language data space is already there in 2026. It's already there. Although it's like, I guess, like, although the project was until 2026, but I guess they're extending it. This is what I heard. So mobility data space is there. So basically, there is a list of data spaces that are being pushed. They started early 2023, but they are being pushed by the European Commission to, like to be in practice. So Now, what is this? What are we doing in Ireland? That's a big question, right? So, is Ireland ready for adopting the European the data strategy or EU data strategy or not? Is a question. So this is where the Data Space Alliance for Ireland comes. So basically, what we're trying to do is that we sort of like, from inside, when we became partner of DSSC or Data Space Support Center, we found that we are really not ready at that level, for instance, adoption level. So also like there is a gap of understanding that what exactly data space is, what is its value within the Irish community. And this is where the Data Space Alliance was like, kind of like, built. It is a very purpose-built initiative. Our main focus is accelerating the adoption and the growth of data spaces in Ireland. So that's basically is the purpose of DSCI. Our long-term vision is support the EU and Irish data strategy goal by helping the Irish stakeholders to harness data and strategic assets. So that's our long-term vision. And we are here to particularly to sort of like, to increase at this level, increase the awareness, the understanding, the value of data spaces in Ireland, that how it can help the communities, the Irish communities, like the public sector communities, and then basically private sectors, the SMEs, from like from a different, let's say that different types of organizations, that they can take advantage of data spaces. So that's DSSC, Data Space Support Center project, and Insight is a proud partner of it. So DSSC 1.0, DSSC 2.0 is coming. We're still partner, associated partner of DSSC 2.0. So we will continue our mission. So main objective of DSSC Data Space Support Center is to help the European Data Space Initiative to sort of like, in building data spaces, or sort of like, optimizing their data spaces. So different types of governance and a technical support are provided by the Data Space Support Center, and that's the key objective of this project. Inside is also, especially our team, the DSSC unit is conducting different types of research as well. So from support center side, we are the one who build the design principle that how data space should be built. We're working on interoperability and the semantic aspects of data spaces, standardization, and also like we are working with W3C in a different types of initiatives. We are also partner of BDVA, and then also like we are member of ADRA as well. So we are sort of like, organizing, we are conducting different types of activities within Insight to kind of to support the different data spaces. The next thing is that what we are doing, we are building a Irish data space sandbox. This is our one initiative which started. And like it's a very new initiative, and we are working on it. So the objective is to help the Irish community to test their data spaces before implementing anything. So we are halfway through. So soon we will release our first version of the sandbox. With that, we have a coming up session. It's like a UCAM. It's a European Health Data Space. So this is our next webinar session. We will send invitation to all of you. And lastly, we are organizing an event. It's a DSAI event within VDVA. It's a VDVF conference that will take place in October, but we will have a side event for organized by Data Space Alliance, and it's open for all. The main objective is that how to increase the adoption of data spaces in Ireland. So we'll discuss the different opportunities and challenges of setting up Irish data spaces. So that's all from my side. Thank you everyone for listening to it, and I'd like to invite now Pio, and we'll go to our main event of the webinar. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm trying to share my desktop. So, Okay, so thank you so much, Rafiki and Edward and Carmel, of course, for inviting me and giving the opportunity to talk about not only Deploy Tour. I'm going to introduce, of course, the European tourism data space, also Cyclops, that I think is a very important project that have a very strong link with all data spaces, not only with the tourism data space, but mostly what I would like to answer is this important question, that is why onboarding to a data space is very important, and what's the value that gives to the DMOs and tourism SMEs. Sorry. Okay. So another question that we should have to solve, as you have seen, Rafiki has presented a lot of data spaces now active in Europe, but why data spaces now? The answer for this question, or the previous questions that are in the table, absolutely are that data are absolutely fragmented. There are a lot of siloed data across not only public institutions, also in private companies. The onboarding to the data spaces is a question that we all have to solve, and I think that with all these projects we are solving it. And of course, there are other questions as legal and technical complexity, and the clear to have a clear vision that data is valuable for all of us. And of course, there is some AI limited resources, or the use of AI it was not very clear because of missing semantics, lineage concept, and other questions that affects to AI. And so those data spaces are trying to solve all these questions, and I think we are doing a good job with all these initiatives in Europe. We are, of course, trying to solve it, sharing rules and technology in order to exchange data. This is the most important mission of the data spaces, to exchange data. Of course, with control, we have to establish policies, rules, be very careful with the identification of the participants in the different tools and in the different data spaces. Sorry, and of course, the interoperability between different data spaces will allow to combine a wide different kind of data related to tourism, mobility, culture, agriculture, some cities, and as we have seen, the information that is crossing between the different data space participants. What is the main value of this data? From my opinion, is to get better decisions. When we have this information, we will be able to get much more better decisions. And of course, we are preparing in all these initiatives the readiness for AI, and it allows us to forecast, personalize, be much more sustainable. And this is what I will try to explain in my presentation. I want to start explaining a little bit more what are we doing in Deploy Tour. Deploy Tour, that is the Common European Tourism Data Space, that of course it demonstrates the value of data specifically for destinations, and of course for tourism, small and medium enterprises. So this is the project. This is the photograph of the project. It's a big project with the participation of 43 organizations from 13 countries. The duration is a 3 years project, and we are very pleased in any solution to coordinate this project. That this project is built on the blueprint developed by 2 other preparatory actions as data and tourism data space. Mainly our objectives. Our objectives are enable the objectives of all the data spaces, that is to enable the decentralization, the security, and share trust data. And it gives an opportunity, a big opportunity to collaborate, to innovate, and of course to grow tourism, SMEs and destinations. So I will give you some tips about our reference architecture and the governance that we are implementing on this project. Of course, we have defined an architecture that mostly is common for other data spaces, always having in mind data providers and data consumers, and of course the governance involved on this with different layers, going from all the ecosystem and focusing finally in the participants. And of course, with these layers, we will solve organizational, legal, and semantic and technical questions. And between the different layers, we will cross all these questions of seamless, efficient, to be efficient, to be compliant, to be trustable, and of course to be trustful. For us, very important to define in this organizational structure. The use cases are in the middle. The different use cases or pilots that we are implementing in this project are going to demonstrate that this value of the not only of the data space, the value of and the results that provide to the SMEs and DMOs. Basically, our architecture and governance vision is based on data sovereignty, on interoperability, not only between the different pilots, also with other data spaces, on trust, of course, and in this value creation. Our connections, better said, or our connectors are compliant with the data space protocol, of course, and we are providing basically federated catalogs and publishing to discover not only data. We are we are doing publishing catalogs about services, and I will go a little bit deeper on this because I think it's quite interesting from the side of Deploy Tour that we are working not only in data catalogs, we are also working on services catalogs. Of course, identity and trust is in the whole process of the data space, and of course it allows onboarding and be very focused on credentials, conformity, and so whole. Okay. Of course, necessary the data contracts, the usage based on rules. And of course, also to monitor and metering what is happening with the data space, not only deploying it, also auditing, giving a service, a good service level. Of course, defining KPIs in order to track and having in mind that data and the access to data or the sharing of data not always is free. Of course, there are transactions and it has a vision of how to make sustainable in the future, economically, basically. Very important for us, and this is I think this is one of our characteristics, and sometimes a difference between other data spaces. We are very focused on being vendor neutral and use standard basis to interoperate cross the space. Think that tourism is strong related to other questions, not only tourism as it is. Of mobility for us is important. Mobility is absolutely a question important in tourism, also agriculture, also smart cities, also cultural heritage. So the interoperability between the different data spaces is absolutely needed for us. And so this is because we are trying to be absolutely open to different technologies. We have to allow to onboard to any kind of institutions, and the technology has not to be a stopper. So our deployment is based on Eclipse data space components and also in Fiber data space components. It allows us to give an approach focused on drone-related initiatives. We are connecting with a services marketplace also, and of course we are absolutely aligned with other European initiatives as simple. So, what are the data products that we are managing and have? Of course, they are version documented, governable packages of data and metadata that deliver a specific outcome to a consumer, a human app or AI. And this is a relation of some of the data product offering that we are publishing by catalogs in our data space. Example, demand flows with information about arrivals, stays, mobility, sustainability indexes, about supply and availability, accommodation, inventory, experiences and quality, introducing information about reviews, satisfaction, the NPS, and sentiment, etc. And of course, introducing or sharing data about sustainability and impact, and the context of the travel sometimes. No? For example, calendars or weather or the transport status. Each data set, and this is very important, has to be discoverable, contractable, with high service level agreement, with the schemas, with licenses and policies, and products. Again, some of them are open, others are shared, and some of them are commercial. It depends on the provider and the use that the consumer do with this data share. Of course, AI is very, very important for us. So we have to be absolutely ready for AI. Of course, as I have said, all the schemas, all the products are standardized set. It covers quality and provenance. Of course, we introduce licensing policies, how to use this data, which is the purpose, meaning, or which is the geoscope of the data that we are sharing. Of course, introducing question of privacy and ethics. GDPR is a must, but also the privacy, the identification, and of course the products. All the products has their access modes by APIs, by stream, by bulk, and the pillar of all this access is the connectors, as I have explained, avoiding that technology could be an stopper. Okay, so regarding readiness add-ons, of course, we are introducing features, specifications. We identify bias and drift monitors by monitoring hooks. And of course, we are sometimes using synthetic data where needed for training and testing. So about the value creation services, as I repeat, we are not only sharing data or trying to share data, we are adding some services. Basically we are combining these data products in order to onboard, to catalog, to validate semantically. We implement services for contract negotiation, for policy enforcement and data delivery. And we prepare all this data, but because most of them come raw, so we have to clean, enrich the code, and aggregate or anonymize. And of course, analytics. We are able to access dashboards or diagnostic analytics as a service, and of course AI enablement, and of course we integrate all the part of operations by monitoring, by measuring and managing the different incidents. So services composed into pipelines that transform this raw data products into interesting insights. So how do we manage and deliver service? That's basically adding service catalogs. Not only, as I have said, we don't only serve data catalogs. So we show or we make discoverable these services, and of course we orchestrate these services via workflows and connector mediated exchanges. Of course, identity and concept is absolutely integrated, and we observe logs, metrics, policy decisions, and usage reports. Always compliant, always reusing legal templates or outdating. And specifically for about AI, we are registering different models and inference endpoint as a service, and always having human in the loop options for labeling reviews when needed, and much more AI specifics, but I would not want to stand on that. Always, where do we test? Where do we try to do our to comply with all our objectives? And how do we demonstrate that all that I have been explained is real, and we can see it? Yeah, we do it with the deployment of or the development of different pilots. The Deploy Tour is managing 5 different pilots allocated in different regions. Those are the titles of the pilots, as you can see, all of them related to tourism, of course, but mixing other questions or not as mobility, cultural heritage, sustainability, etc., etc. In our case, I'm in Balearic Islands. We are involved in the second pilot, and we have divided it in 2 use cases. This is a deeper vision of what we are doing and how the workflow of acting works. We have, let me explain a little bit with what is the need of our use case. We would like to predict tourism affluence and, of course, still visitor flows, as you know, or yes, as you know, surely, because a lot of Irish people come to Balearic Islands. We have an affluence, a very big affluence of visitors. So we are managing data about, or crossing data, better said, about arrivals, about mobility, the access by the different ports and airports, and the mobility on roads. We are getting information about accommodation capacity, occupancy, events, contextual data about events, weather, and of course pressure on natural areas and beaches. So the services involved on this on this data are anonymization and aggregation. We've created a filter pipeline, and we analyze demand and crowding, and we give a forecast on that. And of course, we offer alerts via dashboards and bulk or access via API for 30 apps. So the orchestration of all these elements that are products and the services basically passes through onboard the providers, publish the different products, negotiate the contracts of sharing this data. We run the different pipelines and apply policies and forces that at the different connectors that we use. We are using, as I have said, EDC connectors and firewire connectors compatible also with this technology, with EDC. And all the time we monitor across all the data and the different models, which is the main value of this orchestration, basically to better load balancing and give more environment protection, and of course increase or give a better visitor experience. So finally, what would be the value for the users and the different KPIs? In case of DMOs and public authorities, of course, we are giving a unified view of demand, supply, capacity, alerts, policy, impact analysis. And in case of SMEs, we are giving market signals about price, revenue insights, and lead time trends and benchmarking. And for travelers, the final user, and of course residents, we have to have in mind also the residents, a better information, less crowding, and improve mobility and services. Of course, we are analyzing it with different KPIs about, in case of the DMOs, about occupancy versus carrying capacity, congestion, emissions. In case of SMEs, we are analyzing or monitoring conversion uplift, reduced acquisition costs, product market fit cycles. And in case of travelers, we are measuring the NPS, the satisfaction for tourists, compliance reduction and accessibility improvement. So this is a resume of what can a data space provide to final users, in this case, the DMOs, SMEs, and travelers, and how this data crossing or this data sharing and those services linked to this data can provide finally some interesting outputs for it. So let me talk a little bit about Cyclops. This is another project that we are involved with also, because I have been talking a lot about some kind of services and linked to AI. And this, I would like to introduce also this project because I think this is quite interesting, because we were talking about the data space, how the data arrives to the data space, or how the data is shared through the data space. But sometimes we don't talk about how to cook it. So Cyclops helps us not only to deploy tool, also for other projects, but we are involved on both projects, help us to cook this data. Well, very short, Cyclops is a 36 months duration project. There are involved 24 partners for 11 countries. Most of these partners, mostly all these partners, are involved in different data space initiatives. So I think that it has a very strong link with, or could have a very strong link with, other data spaces. And why? Because basically the aim of Cyclops is to facilitate the adoption and production of data, models, and services from and for data spaces. And of course, it has the same objectives about interoperability, trustworthy, and secure. But basically, what is enabling is the data shared in the exchange in data spaces, but giving this kind of services that I have explained that are very helpful for data spaces, because sometimes the data space seems that only shares data, and when I have access to this data, I have to cook it, or I need tools to generate information in a dashboard or something like this. So Cyclops is I think it's a very interesting project because it can give us these pipelines in order to generate interesting outputs. In fact, the architecture basically, here we can show how Cyclops platform can automate generating of data processing pipelines, and how the different use cases are testing it, and of course are linked with different data spaces, as you can see in the different use cases. And of course, it generates an engagement with all these European initiatives. So quite important to not only have data or not only share data. I think it's quite important to link services in order to cook or manage this data to give interesting outputs. As you can see, this is mainly the alignment with their spaces and the collaboration needs. In the left side, as you can see, you have mentioned before, Data Space Support Center is supporting and coordinating different data space initiatives. As you can see, the last one is chosen, but you can see all the other graphics you mentioned before and more. And Cyclops could be in the middle. I say could be because Cyclops is a research project, but I think we should have to have in mind it because it's absolutely linked with the data space landscape, as you can see here. So I return to this, to the title of my presentation, because I think we should have to solve this. I think it's quite clear, or at least I have tried to give this vision in a specific data space that can explain why the data has a value for DMOs and SMEs. And but this is like a resume because I will repeat a lot of things that I have explained before. But for me, one of the best answer, or it has two sides. To onboard to the data space matters because all the data spaces need data, and all the DMOs and SMEs in tourism can leverage the existence of this data space, and not only this deploy, also other data spaces, because we will be able to reach much more information than the information that we can have. We can have very valuable information in our site, but it's the amount of information that we can reach and the services that those data spaces can provide us, and the explorer and the capacity of access information that costs. It could not be in our minds because we are accessing a very big network of information. I think it's quite important. So I will try to give some tips about that. Of course, we will be able, in case of onboarding to a data space, we will be able to unlock the data and the data-driven innovation. The reason is because tourism generates lots of information, but very fragmented data. By onboarding to the data space, the access to this data will be trust data from across the ecosystem. And this is very important because sometimes we isolate the data as it is, but we have to have in mind, and this is a pillar of data spaces, that the data is absolutely trust. And of course, this will fuel the AI-based solutions. When we are starting AI-based projects, one of the diamonds of these processes is the data. So the data space is providing this tool for engaged AI-based solutions. So the leveling the playing field of DMOs and SMEs, the question is that many cannot afford expensive data platforms, and data spaces democratize the access to data. The data space, in fact, is sharing not only data, is sharing the infrastructure and is lowering absolutely the barrier to entry to DMOs and SMEs. And this is because DMOs and SMEs get equal access to high-quality data sets that were previously siloed in large corporations. I think this is one of the most important questions that the data space serves to access, to democratize the access to rich data. Another question, the data spaces are building trust for collaboration again. Onboarding to a data space ensures each participant has a verified digital identity. The DMOs can share data under clear usage policies because we are defining rules to access these data spaces. We will define who can use it for what and under which conditions. And this trust layers is crucial for tourism partnerships between the different participants in the tourism industry, not only DMOs, of course, the SMEs, hotels, and tourism SMEs, and other participants in the tourism industry as mobility providers, etc. Of course, we will boost the local digital economy, and this is not only important for Ireland, it's important for all Europe. I think that tourism in Europe is based on SMEs. I think Ireland and Spain has more or less the same schema. The 95% of companies involved in tourism in Spain are SMEs. I think in Ireland is quite similar. And so that spaces will be able to create new business models for these SMEs. By being on board destination and its local companies can offer data services beyond the region, but not only for the region, they can tap into European initiatives. I think that being connected to a European initiative as Deploy Tour, for example, you will be able to show your data and services to all the European community, because there are a lot of countries involved on this kind of projects. And of course, this strengthens the position of European Union in digital economy. So another interesting question that, as I have said, with tons of data, we will be able to improve the AI strategy. So we are empowering the AI adoptions, the AI adoption, sorry, with onboarding AI startups initiatives in the DIHs. Lack the trust diverse data sets needs to train and scale solutions. You can train with your own data, but the amount of data and trusted data you will be able to access is absolutely different. With onboarding, of course, AI can help to address tourism flow, sustainability, agricultural efficiency, balanced mobility, and climate resilience, for example. Okay. And of course, onboarding to a data space will allow a strategic alignment with the European Union. What would be specifically the value of data for DMOs? Basically, understanding demand and visitor behavior, because we are managing data on arrivals, bookings, mobility, and spending, and it will help to DMOs to see real demand patterns in near real time. And of course, with this information, we will get much better decisions so DMOs can adapt strategies to match demand with capacity. And again, with trusted data and with a huge amount of information, not only from our region, also for other regions that could be more advanced or could be less advanced, but of course, this amount of information will be very helpful to take good decisions. And of course, the DMOs will be able to improve destination management, for example, based on data on flows, and help to balance the tourism across the territory. And of course, it will support sustainable tourism by identifying overcrowded sites and promoting alternatives. We will have evidence-based policy and funding. The data providers have evidence for decision-making, so it will define or it will strengthen the question how to invest in infrastructure or in cultural programs. And it will allow, of course, to strengthen funding applications with measurable impact, not only at European Union level, of course, national level or a regional level. It will strengthen partnership, sharing insights with SMEs, and will create collaborative ecosystems because all the outputs produced will be helpful for not only for DMOs, also for SMEs. And so the DMO will become a trust data broker, raising their value as coordinators of the destination. For SMEs, the onboarding to the data space or the value of data for SMEs will give much more market intelligence, accessibility. Usually, SMEs lack resources for big research. And as I have explained, data space will give this infrastructure and this environment to access more data. So that the data access via DMOs or data spaces gives them affordable insights about trends, customer profiles, sustainability. And of course, again, it will provide better decision making. Some examples, for example, restaurants could adjust menus based on tourism origins, or hotels optimize pricing using demand forecasts, or local producers adapt supply for restaurants and hotels. Of course, new business opportunities for SMEs. SMEs also, seems that always we are talking about providing data, but of course we can consume data and consume and provide data. So SMEs also can offer their data about occupancy, consumption, etc., and the access to tourism data enables new products. For example, personalized tours, digital services, mobility, etc., etc. And the SMEs will compete on quality, not just price. The data gives competitiveness. With better insights, the SMEs will be able to differentiate service quality, sustainability, and niche experiences. And of course, data reduce the blind spots small businesses usually face when competing with global platforms. And also, what about combining value for combining data that gives value not only to DMOs, also to SMEs? When DMOs and SMEs both use shared data, the DMOs set a strategy with macro insights. The SMEs adapt operations with micro insights, but together they create a data-driven ecosystem where competitiveness, sustainability, and innovation reinforce each other. Here you are information about the two projects that I have mentioned. This is the contact and information link to Cyclops. And here you can engage with the Play2 project and, of course, try to find synergies and collaboration. We are very open to establish synergies with institutions, not only with projects, also with different kinds of institutions and SMS. And if you want to access to our dissemination activities and communication, please scan this QR and you will have all the information, and also in the web page. I will not try to say this because I don't speak Gaelic, but thank you very much for attending.
Sorry. Thank you,
Sharon.
Pio. That's fantastic. Yeah. So I know, has anybody got any questions? They can you're free to speak. You just need to unmute. It's a lot of information in there, Pio, so maybe some thoughts coming later on. Yeah. Rafiq, did you have anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I will go very quick. One very quick question. Pure, just a quick question about the cross data space interoperability side. I mean, like if tourism, for instance, wants to kind of like, establish a cross data space interoperability with mobility, how challenging it would be, for example, from technical standpoint and also governance standpoint.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, but we are working on that. And in fact, DSC is helping us trying to solve this question. In terms of governance, I'm quite comfortable because we are not reinventing the wheel, you know. When we are defining, we have a specific work package in order to define the governance of our data space, and we are getting information and leveraging from other cases. And deploy MDS, for example, is a little bit more advanced than deploy tools. So we are very aligned on that, on the governance question. About interoperability, we have made some pilots in order to be interoperable with EMDS, and not only with EMDS. For us, as I have explained, architecture is very important, and try to avoid the technical locking. Let me be very honest. Sometimes I see that some data spaces are absolutely focused on one technology. And for us, this is a must. We have to be open to give access to all kinds of institutions, companies, SMEs, etc. We have discussed a lot about that. In fact, our blueprint, our prime architecture was based on EDC, and we have discussed a lot about this. We have involved the firewall-based data space also. For us, the umbrella is the data space protocol. I think Fiverr has done big steps on that, and now we have demonstrated, because we are deploying the first MVP of Deploy 2. We have demonstrated that Fiverr and EDC can work together. In fact, Fiverr has worked a lot on using some components based on EDC also. And for us, we are looking for simple also. Simple is advancing, and we will implement it. But the question is that we have to be able to give access to everybody. And we have seen that some other data spaces are just focused on one technology, and so it generates a technological stopper. So, of course, there is a lot of work about interoperability. Interoperability sometimes is a word that all is used, and we will be interoperable. We are focusing a lot on the technology, on the architecture, but we have to focus a lot also in other questions, semantics. For me, semantics, I think sometimes we forgot this, but this is very important in order to understand one with other. But, well, I think all the people has very clear that we have to solve it, and in fact, there are some projects that are starting in order to solve this question, and we are working hard on it.
Yeah. One last question from my side. Actually, I mean, the two joint questions. One is how, for example, let's say that Irish technical companies, perhaps like, people who are building application for tourism, they can take advantage of EU data space. This is one question. The second question would be, is that does this deploy to contains the personal information of, for example, like, when I mean regarding tourism, these are the two questions.
Yeah. The first one, we have implemented a specific pilot that connects technical SMEs in Lapland, in Finland, with the data space. Because we think this is a very interesting pilot, because finally explains how to access to a data space, how to gather this information or cross information from the data space, and how to create value in the technical SMEs. The aim is to create applications and services based on this data. And I think this is a natural flow, not only sharing information between institutions. Of course, it's important in order to get good decisions, but also to make tangible that with this data we can create applications, create dashboards, etc. Anybody can say, okay, but I can produce an application for tourists in my country or in my region. Of course, yes, but the difference is that the data that you are accessing is just, and the amount of information that you can access is are tons of data.
Mm.
So a company that is accessing not only a data space and also a federated catalog with other data space, having more information not only about tourism, also about cultural heritage, also about mobility, etc., I think it's clear that the richness of the applications or artifacts that they can create is much more than others. So it's an opportunity for SMEs to enrich their products and services. And in the other hand, sorry, the question was.
The second question about the personal data of deployed tool, like, I mean,
Yeah.
does it contain like personal data of tourists?
Yeah. Well, of course, GDPR is in the center of all the questions and all the policies, but these policies are technically implemented also in the transferring, in the sharing of data. Okay, but there is for me, there is a very important question. When I go, for example, to a hotel and I sign that I can share my personal data, there is no problem with this data sharing. So it's a question of who owns the data and in which conditions. And these conditions has to be implemented in the rules of accessing this data. Sometimes we think that we have to anonymize, we have to give only private information. It depends on the provider of the information. And the last and first provider of the information is the user. It can be a person or it can be an institution. But again, if I go to a reception and I say, surely because I have not read the conditions, but I checked something saying I allow you to share my personal data, so this data can be shared. Another question is that the data space, and we have a strong discussion on this also, if the data space does not want to have personalized information. So this is a second step. But if the data space allows to get the conditions or the rules that you have implemented for accessing this data, I think that there is no problem. But this is a question of the governance of the data space. But in fact, if I think that I allow to share my personal data, that could not be
an issue. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Pio. Thank you. Thank you so much. Carmel, to you. Yes.
Yeah, I have no further questions here. Does anybody, the participants? No, I think we've run over a little bit on time. Pio, thank you so much for your time, and we'll follow up if there's any further questions after. We will make a recording available and send it on to you also. We really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you. Very glad.
Okay.
Thank you.